It all started one quiet night when I decided to go all out with Mom, lost in one of her endless phone calls upstairs. The house felt like it belonged to just us. I hopped onto Dad's lap in the living room, whispering silly secrets in his ear. He said stop. He claimed it was unsafe. Still, I kissed him. He kissed me back in that very house where I played with dolls and begged for bedtime stories. I kissed my father as if he were my lover. He yanked me onto the bed and ripped my clothes apart. I wrapped my legs around his waist, craving more. He reached into my pants, his soft finger massaging my hole. I was completely lost in that moment. I lost track of where I was. The feelings were amazing, the highlight of my life. I just had to go for it. He hit me with such intensity, like he had been waiting for this moment forever. I'm Celeste. I boldly seize whatever I desire. This is the story of how I tested the unthinkable. And if you're new here, yes, this is my channel. Welcome back. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell. Hey, returning subscribers, thanks for dropping in. Let's dive in. I was raised in a cozy castle, not your typical castle with stone towers or golden thrones, but a sleek suburban fortress in Chicago featuring polished floors, designer furniture, and a walk-in closet larger than most bedrooms. Dorian and Vera built everything for me. I was handed the world on a silver platter: dresses, phones, vacations, anything I wanted. I didn't need to earn a thing. All I had to do was smile or pout, and everything fell into place. Maybe that's where it started. The idea that I could have anyone, even him. Possibly excessive school was no different. Teachers boosted my grades beyond what I earned. The boys idolized me. The girls were jealous of me. I knew how to command a room, shifting the atmosphere with just a whisper or a touch. I had no shame about it. I craved power, and I loved every moment of it at home. It was a whole different story, more perilous. Dad was always a looker. He had that classic look. Tall, strong arms, a voice like gravel and velvet. He thrived in finance, returning home radiating success as a kid. He'd spin me around and call me his girl. I would laugh and dissolve in his embrace, but something shifted after I turned 18. His hugs lingered longer, felt different, like he wasn't just holding his daughter anymore. I spotted things his gaze held steady as I strolled into the kitchen wearing nothing but a shirt. His hands lingered just a moment too long on my shoulder. He never crossed the line, always stayed within bounds. I could feel it. The tension was palpable, the intrigue. It was as if he doubted who I'd turn into. I wasn't either. Mom was always on the go, constantly hitting up charity events, yoga sessions, and girls' dinners. She loved me, absolutely. I think she trusted me a bit too much. Maybe she just put too much trust in Dad. The house gradually became ours, just him and me. Maybe I imagined it at first, maybe not. But it began as a tiny spark. I'd strut around in snug shorts bend too far while picking something up. Ask him if he thinks I look stunning in my new dress. Initially, he'd just laugh, shake his head and act like I was being ridiculous. I caught the flicker in his eyes. I brushed past him in the hallway and his breath hitched. That's when it hit me. He was on the same wavelength, the line we were never meant to cross. It was already a blur one evening. I strolled into the living room, clad only in his button-down shirt. He lounged on the couch, engrossed in a book. I played it cool, like it was nothing, snagged a soda from the fridge and plopped down next to him. His body stiffened. He avoided my gaze. "What's up?" I curled my legs under me. "You should put something on, Celeste," he said. "Why?" I tilted my head, feinting innocence. "I've rocked a swimsuit before." "That's unique." I leaned in, really. No response, stood up, and bolted out of the room. That was a tempting one. I waited for Mom to head out to her weekend spa retreat the second time. Everything was set. Wine, music, dim lights. I invited Dad to catch a movie with me. I said, "I miss our time together." He sat next to me, tense and cautious. I laughed way too loud. I brushed his knee as I leaned in to refill his glass midway through the movie. I leaned on his shoulder, feeling his body hum like a live wire beneath my cheek. "You're drunk," he whispered. No prime-lit feeling great. He jumped up and headed to bed, another setback. But he was breaking down, bold move on the third attempt. Sunday morning vibes, Mom was at church. I figured Dad would be in the den, lost in a book. I strolled in clad only in lace underwear and a tank top so sheer it was practically see-through. I grasped his coffee mug tightly and leaned in to pass it to him. "Morning," I chimed cheerfully. He glanced up and stopped dead in his tracks. His gaze slid down my body, landing on my thighs. He closed his eyes and turned away. "Get dressed now." "Why not?" I joked. "Are you not impressed by what you see?" His jaw tightened. "I am your father, you missed the question." I perched on his lap. He let me go, and that was just the start. No kiss that day, left it untouched since then, but then everything shifted. I could see it in his eyes, a hunger he could no longer conceal. He dashed out of the room. The silence crackled with electricity. It happened 3 days later. Mom's gone again in the kitchen, barefoot grooving to tunes, while whipping up a midnight snack. Dad walked in, donning his robe, bed head alert. "You need to be in bed," he said. "You definitely should." He moved in closer. I stayed put, locked eyes, and held the moment he kissed me. It was awkward, unsure, absolutely real. Once that line was crossed, there was no turning back that night. He led me to the living room couch and claimed me definitely not his daughter. His lady the next morning, we stayed silent about it. We exchanged a glance, a mix of shame and excitement sparking between us. I figured it would end there, just one terrible blunder. But it failed to do so. We plunged in, waves dragging us down. That was a mistake. Twisted. We just couldn't halt. I really didn't want to. Once you savor the forbidden, nothing else matters. That first night with Dad flipped everything upside down. It's not out there, it's within us. We crossed a line, and instead of recoiling, we charged forward. I woke up the next morning, wrapped in his arms, his breath warm against my neck. Silence reigned, no words, no awkward apologies. A storm is brewing, not fading away. I returned to my room just before dawn. Mom was still snoozing. I quickly brushed my hair in front of the mirror and flashed a smile. No guilt here, no sign of life. I felt unstoppable, stunning. Adored men are drawn to what ignites their passion. And Dad. I sparked feelings in him that Mom hadn't in years. It began to occur more frequently. I'd sneak into his room late at night, whether she was home or not. Silence reigned between us. No need to. He had given up. He's mine now. I knew exactly how to keep him. I'd rock his favorite colors, cook for him when Mom was swamped, crack up at his silly jokes, perch on his lap, feigning interest in my phone. I once left a hickey on his neck. He slathered on makeup, hoping to hide it from Mom, but she caught on. He claimed it was a burn from a curling iron. She trusted him. She always trusted him. I could see the confusion in her eyes. Her gaze on him as he doubled over at my jokes was electric. Her glare when he pulled out a chair for me, leaving her standing, was intense. She sensed it. The change, she had no idea how deep it really went. We didn't either. One night, I went all out. Mom was upstairs, deep in a long phone call. I hopped onto Dad's lap in the living room, whispering silly secrets in his ear. He said stop. He claimed it was unsafe still. I kissed him. He kissed me back, and suddenly in that very house where I once played with dolls and begged for bedtime stories, I was crossing a line I could never uncross and pleaded for bedtime stories. I kissed my father as if he were my lover. As soon as I heard Mom's footsteps, I sprang up and dashed into the hallway. He spent days fixing his hair and straightening his shirt. She burst in a second later, her eyes darting between us as if she could sense the truth, but lacked the words to express it. She stayed silent, just hit the kitchen. We nearly got caught, but the excitement, it just fueled our desire for more. It had evolved beyond mere lust, a hidden realm, a twisted paradise. Ours alone. Let's meet in the garage, the laundry room, his workspace. I yanked him into the pantry while Mom was busy setting the table, just 5 minutes. Adeline's a wicked smile. We were addicts, fueling each other's cravings. I felt him sinking further. His texts became bolder. His stares lingered one day. I discovered a new necklace on my bed. No note, no explanation, needed a simple gift. I rocked it at dinner. Mom loved it. Dad nearly choked on his wine. I grinned, then cracks began to appear. He fired off questions. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling after their night together. "What's the plan?" he inquired. I just shrugged. "Having a blast together. This isn't right." "Celeste, just stop." He just couldn't. Sometimes he'd gaze at me, a deep ache in his eyes, as if he regretted ever giving in. I knew better, that ache. Not guilt. It was pure hunger he was all in. He craved me, like a fix. What about me? I was riding the wave of control. We let our guard down messy. I slipped on his shirt for breakfast, and Mom's gaze locked onto me for a whole minute. It came from the laundry basket. I said she was silent, but I could see her mind racing. She began keeping a closer eye on us. No more frequent outings, cancel her yoga classes, weekend retreat, canceled. Her eyes tracked us as if we were strangers donning her family's faces. Next, the mistake happened. Sunday had arrived. Dad and I just returned from the store, cracking up over a silly joke I told in the car. I grabbed his hand instinctively, way too familiar, way too soft. Mom caught it. She paused before responding. She simply observed. She knew, and I knew it that night. Dad burst into my room. He stayed fully dressed. He never laid a finger on me. He sat on the edge of my bed, face ashen. "She's beginning to have her doubts." He said. I kept silent. "This can't last indefinitely." I shut up, feeling scared. "Yes," he whispered. I leaned in, my fingers grazing his knee, chose a side. He glanced my way. The silence between us thickened. His face reflected the struggle between who he once was and who I had made him, but he stayed in my room that night. That's when I realized he had made his decision. Mom might have sensed the storm brewing. She might have caught the signs picked up, the whispers, sensed the betrayal in the air. But it was too late. We were done hiding. We were immersed in it. The silence after Mom left hit me like a freight train. Silence reigns above, no voice calls from the kitchen, no clink of her wine glass. Post-dinner, silence. We were left alone to face the truth. Dad went silent for days. He hardly touched his food. He glided through the house like a phantom. It was as if the walls were strangers to him now. I did it. I felt liberated when she left. I thought it proved I was right, that I had won. But the silence she left behind, it felt heavier than I expected. I took what I wanted. No one was left to hold me back. I was always the heart of this house. I was the queen now, ruling a shattered kingdom. Quickly loses its thrill in the first week. I focused on getting him back into our groove. I'd rock his favorite perfume, widen my robe just a bit more as I walked by. I brushed my hand against his shoulder. He hardly glanced my way. He'd sit in the living room for hours, fixated on old family photos, as if they might spring to life and guide him. Why the long face one night, I leaned in, wearing just a tank top and lace panties, and asked him, "She's gone. Isn't that exactly what you wanted?" No response. I pressed on. "She never knew you, not the way I do." He finally faced me. His eyes were empty. That's the issue. For the first time, I was at a loss for words. "I shattered my wife," he declared. "I lost control. You kept going, and I let you. You were unstoppable." "No," he said softly. I really should have. A crack formed within me, regretting it now. I let out a sharp hiss. "She's gone, and I'm still here." He averted his gaze. I approached him, took his face in my hands. "This, Dad, was your choice. You picked me." "I was weak," he whispered. "You loved it." His hands clamped around my wrists. "Not tough, just steady. This isn't love," he declared. "It never was." I locked eyes with him. "So what was it?" He broke free. "I'm lost." The next morning, a suitcase awaited me by the door. Him full to the brim set. I freaked out. Where to next? I stood in the doorway, heart racing, wearing his sweatshirt. "I'm getting help," he said. "I've been chatting with a counselor. I'm diving into a retreat time to level up. What's in it for me?" He gazed at me, a sadness in his eyes that was new and striking. "Celeste, you need help too, beyond what I can offer, perhaps more than anyone else can." Rage surged beneath my skin. "You're really just walking away after it all. I've already lost my wife." He said I can't lose myself either. And just like that, he was gone. The door slammed shut, leaving me alone, completely isolated. Absolutely not Mom. Absolutely not Dad. A house brimming with echoes and secrets, untouched and unspoken. Time flew by. Then weeks fly by. I called him. No response. I reached out to Mom. Zero zip. Nada. The house chilled. Dust piled up in the corners. No more perfume for me. Gave up on brushing my hair. Some mornings I barely left my bed. I believed I could take it on. I didn't need them. I sure did. Despite all my games and power, I was still just a girl with no one to play with. One afternoon, I stumbled upon a photo hidden in the drawer next to Dad's bed. We stood by the lake soaking up the summer sun. Mom's hand rests on Dad's back. I wrapped my arms around them both. We seemed thrilled, complete. I gazed at it intently. I tore it in two. No tears fell. No tears here. But I felt a crack inside, a silent break that echoed pain, but refused to mend. Months later, the house is still mine. It just doesn't feel like home anymore. A mere shell haunted by a terrible past. Mom never returned. Dad sending postcards from the treatment center. They're brief, respectful, far away. He now signs them Dorian, not Dad. It's been ages since he left. I often find myself in the den, the birthplace of it all. I trace my fingers over the couch where I first straddled him, where I first whispered secrets a daughter should never share. Did I stop? Would he have to? But then I realized I don't want to quit. He didn't either. That's the reality we both face. Stained wall, just paint over it. The decay below keeps spreading. What about this house? It might endure, but it will never be spotless again. We torched a family, now we're surrounded by smoke. Mom's breakdown happened on a still day, way too quiet. It kicked off like any other morning. Sunlight burst through the windows. Birds chirped outside, blissfully unaware of the decay lurking within our home. I glided down in a satin robe, humming a tune. Dad was already in the kitchen, brewing coffee. He glanced up as I walked in, eyes darting over me with that familiar look. Guilt and desire collide, but something was definitely off. Mom was missing from her usual chair. Her coffee cup remained empty. The air is devoid of her perfume. I never asked. I couldn't care less. The house felt like it was already mine. "Good morning," I whispered as I brushed past Dad, fingers gliding over his back. He took his time to respond. "Next, Celeste. This needs to end now." I pause, blink and turn to him. "Why not?" She heard him say it in a low voice. "Or she's nearly there. I can sense it." I chuckled quietly. "All right, she's not strong. She's not taking any action." He looked at me as if I were a complete stranger. Absolutely chilling, yet here we are. He stayed put, as I leaned in for a soft kiss. Yet he kissed me back. That was it. He always kissed me right back. Little did I know Mom had been awake for hours. Just upstairs. I had no idea she overheard us last night. The floorboards creaked softly outside her door. Muffled whispers reached my ears, those giggles a silence that roared betrayal for weeks. She had spotted the signs, but now she was aware. She stayed up until noon. Her face was ghostly white. It felt like all the color had vanished. She avoided my gaze. She plopped down on the couch. She folded her hands in her lap. I stood in the doorway, cool and collected, self-assured. "Hey, Mom, everything good?" "Take a seat," she whispered. I shot a quick look at Dad. He stood frozen, trapped behind her coffee mug, quivering in his hand. "Here comes Celeste." I strode into the room and took a seat across from her crossed legs. The rope slipped off my shoulder a bit. She held her gaze steady. I craved the truth. She gazed right through me. Everything. I wasn't pretending to misunderstand which truth. I mentioned it, just to see how things would go. Her lips formed a tight line. "Stop pretending you don't know. You think I haven't noticed your gaze on him. His gaze is electric. I've noticed the stains on your sheets. Fragrance lingers in my bed. I'm no fool, Dad." Moved in. Vera silence. She snapped her voice, shaking. Her eyes shot back to mine. What's up, Celeste? Are you in bed with your dad? Chill swept through the air. Dad let the mug slip from his hands. It crashed to the floor. Hot coffee splashed across the tiles. Everyone stayed still. I tilted my head. Want me to lie? She recoiled. That was all the answer needed. The silence lingered endlessly. Dad collapsed into the armchair, utterly drained. Mom just gaped. What about me? I stayed focused. How could you do that? She whispered at last. He's your dad. Absolutely not. Cool voice. I said, he's your man. You simply lost the spark to keep him engaged. She hit me, challenging. My cheek burned. But I stood my ground. I smiled. Got it. I whispered, your true self. Her eyes brimmed with tears. She faced Dad. What's the time frame? He stayed silent. What's the time frame? She let out a piercing scream. He buried his face in his hands, disintegrating like paper months. She gasped and stumbled back as if he'd struck her. I poured my all into you. She wept. This family is yours now. This place, you wrecked it. My bad, he murmured. You went for it anyway. She let out a piercing shriek alongside her. Her voice broke. She glanced at us, eyes wide as if we were unrecognizable monsters. She burst into laughter, a chilling, fractured laugh. Time to call the police. She wiped tears from her face. I'm going to take you both down, not a chance. Cool as ice. I said you adore him way too much. What about me? You never truly had control over me, did you? That shattered her. She fell silent. She glided upstairs like a phantom. She returned an hour later, dragging 2 suitcases behind her. Dad jumped up. Bewildered Vera. She shot him one final glance. Your decision is made. She shot me a glance. Her eyes were lifeless. You're not my kid. She burst through the front door, and just like that, she vanished. Keep it calm. No tossing items around. No last-minute requests. Only silence and the heaviness of our actions. Dad stood still for what felt like ages. This isn't what I wanted, he finally said. His voice hollow, almost like he was just thinking out loud, but neither of us had stopped it when we still could. But you didn't halt it either. I murmured. He glanced my way, and I caught it. Missed chances. Disgrace, something's breaking deep within, yet he still didn't ask me to go. He still didn't declare it was over. We had obliterated her, and we stood strong. Ever found yourself in a situation like this? I get it, your mind's racing with possibilities. What action did you take? Subscribe, like, and smash that notification bell for more exciting stories like this.